does this kind of apparently Prasangika, Madhyamika philosophical analysis and view apply to your practice, or is that relevant to something you are doing, Vajrayogini practice, for example, or something that's a philosophy for the sake of philosophy? I just want to know how relevant to your life.
Well, for many, many years, Madhyamika teaching was just an intellectual understanding. It's very easy for Westerners to fall into the trap of, oh, I understand this intellectually, so I'm all good, right? So just the simple question of, can you think of anything that's permanent? No, I'm done. Got it, check the box, what's next? And as my practice is like deepened and matured, my relationship to this teaching has become much more embodied. So it's become very, very relevant. The way that I work with it is to explore what aspects of our inner experience feel permanent, and particularly, you know, through the lens of this idea that we're all a bundle of habits, and these habits, they get formed in our childhood, and they get so deeply ingrained that it just becomes a part of who we are, who we think we are. So I relate to this image of accumulation of merits and dedication of merits. It's really a process of establishing new healthy habits for the arising of the bodhicitta and the arising of enlightenment. And by doing this, it counteracts our default habits when we're asleep. So that's the way that I work.
That's really nice. Nice way to work with. Those habits are also impermanent, right? Yeah, it's changeable. So in that sense, we are not doomed to be this way or that way, you know. I'm this because I'm this or that, you know, I had this during childhood, I had this and that. So that also can be changed. That's the place where practice comes in, right?
I've definitely noticed specifically, it's just on another level with Tantra, where it's just, it seems like the practice is almost impossible. When I'm sort of finding myself stuck, I sort of step back and sort of think, well, what is it? What's causing me to find this difficult, you know, but not just difficult, but like stuck, or it's not working, you know, it's just, this doesn't seem like it's working. For example, self-generation, you know, who am I kidding? I'm just making this up kind of thing. Definitely there's a link there. Like when I start to feel, I recognize that perhaps I'm just haven't sort of spent enough time contemplating emptiness or meditating on it for whatever reason, because it's a constant deepening practice. It's not like, okay, I've studied it, that's it, put it to one side, move on now. It's a lifelong thing to deepen my understanding of emptiness, as well as obviously the Lamrim and Lojong, which are all intertwined with, as well as Tantra basically. So even with Lojong practice, it's like it becomes clearer how it can't function very well. You get, you know, I get stuck at times, and it seems again very much linked to the fact that my emptiness understanding needs to deepen. They're all sort of interlinked and intertwined, but definitely that's one thing I've noticed with whether it's sort of sutra or tantra practice, the kind of stuckness or the difficulty with practice, when I sort of step back, I can always, well, generally see that there's quite a link. My understanding of emptiness or lack of understanding is something that's it's a lifelong thing that we deepen basically.
Yeah, there are many levels of understanding emptiness, like entry levels, and even bodhisattvas first direct experience emptiness. Bodhisattva at the first bhumi, first ground among 10 bhumis. Then that bodhisattva also defining the understanding or the direct experience of emptiness and deeper. So for us as practitioners, also we're gonna go step by step, you know, in terms of understanding. In a way, we should not discourage, no? We just follow the master's footsteps. And you said practicing Tantra. So first of all, we kind of step back again, as you said, why we practice Tantra? You know, what's the basis of a Tantra? Those kind of things need to be very clear about. First of all, what do we want to get at in Tantra? Why we don't stop at the sutra level? Whatever we have talked, this is the sutra. But apply. Tantra is application of the sutra, I would say. Application of what we are talking about here, which means Tantra is based on the sutric understanding in emptiness. Having said that, because I don't understand the emptiness, or I don't have a glimpse, this direct experience of emptiness, I cannot move to Tantra. So that's also the black and white kind of approach, perfectionist approach. While we are practicing Tantra, we refine our understanding of sutric teaching like emptiness through using the tantric method. Tantra provides us a lot of skillful method. For example, we just chant it, right? And also play the musical instrument and all the visualization. Those are skillful means to facilitate, to deepen our understanding of emptiness. When we are chanting, so then emptiness, so including the subtle body, and the subtle body means more closer to the non-conceptual. Then deepest dimension of the body is this subtlest prana, so the mind, subtlest mind go together, called Runsem Chippa. That sort of skillful means involved in Tantra. My point is, it's very important to clarify why we enter Tantra and what we are trying to do in Tantra. These habitual patterns we all have. In Tantra, we are trying to cut through that habitual patterns and identity of what we take to be the self, and also what we see here, appearance, of course. So we cut through that habitual patterns on the top of this self-grasping or the complete misunderstanding. You continue to use that intellect. You can use that intellect to cut through that intellectual understanding of what we are talking about here, emptiness and interdependence.
What you were saying, Khandro, is like as you're practicing Tantra, you're also deepening your experiential embodied understanding of emptiness and your felt understanding. And then that also, like, I go back to the Mula Madhyamika Karika all the time, and also Chandrakirti's Introduction to the Middle Way. Like, I always go back to those two books because I love them. And I still don't understand them, right? But I like to go back to them and I like to work with them because my head is like it crashes against them. And then at first I was just trying to solve them intellectually. And you know, this was the same problem when I was in Zen and I was just trying to solve koans. Like I was sitting there with the koans like this and nothing was working. And it wasn't until I deepened my Shikantazawa meditation and everything that like, oh, and then all of a sudden the koans started to like open up a little bit and I was like, oh. And that's how Madhyamika feels to me with Tantra as well. Like you practice more Tantra and then Madhyamika opens up to you. Then you read more Madhyamika, you understand a little bit more, and then, okay, and then you go back and practice. And it's like by practicing it, it's this reciprocal opening up, right? Like it's opening, both of these things are opening them each other up for you. Your Tantra experience is deepening because of your deepened understanding of Madhyamika. And then at the same time, your Madhyamika is deepening because your deepened understanding and practice and embodied practice of Tantra. That's been my experience personally.
Yeah, the Tantra mind, which practices Tantra, gets subtler, and definitely the understanding the Madhyamika, for example, the mind that understands Madhyamika gets subtler and more open, more relaxed, hopefully. So it's easier in a sense that letting go of this self, I am trying to understanding. So that I is the one who actually was the causing the not understanding the emptiness. Tantra opens up quite a bit of, to me, my experience too, when I came to really ready for Tantra. I was convinced why all these great masters were really emphasizing, to try to do the sutra level first. And so using this coarse mind. Then once we get into the subtler mind and all these different modalities using that facilitate the deeper understanding, embodied experience of understanding the emptiness deepens. This is the practitioner's tool. Maybe one main tool that should be in our toolbox to cut through the practitioner's pitfall, clinging to one side or clinging to practice, too much, or realization, I had a good experience, I want to have another one or something like that. Then use that tool to cut through. Then on the other hand, I don't have any realization, then everything is, there's that discouragement or something. That's also empty, to cut through all this and that. This and that of practitioners. Because
Yeah.
wisdom is the direct antidote to cut through this samsaric suffering, best medicine, along with compassion. For the tantric practitioners, like for all of us practice tantra, right? Something very beneficial to understand in order to really embody the Madhyamika philosophy in that context. Because it's just a visualization. Think about it. If you are not empty in a sense, everything becomes struggle. And not a waste of time, but, like to have a difficulty finding so much, how many years have done. It's very difficult to bear fruits.
Why we continuously have to get so good at the solution and the emptiness part, because if you're trying to impute on anything else, it gets so tricky and it gets so impossible. There was a great quote that was actually in the book. Like, once a practitioner told Longdol Lama that even though he tried to generate himself as a deity, he was still conscious of his ordinary body, his friends, his house, and all the things he usually did. He asked what he should do to correct this. Longdol Lama replied that he could solve the problem by training in the meditation on bringing death into the path of the truth body. If we imagine that everything dissolves into emptiness, we can overcome ordinary appearances, and this will make it easy for us to generate new, pure appearances.
So we have to also go one step further as a tantric practitioner. That's the first half equation of the entire tantric enlightenment. So that's the emptiness part. Then we don't want to become the deities, empty deities without a heart. Like we can visualize, Vajrayogini ourselves in this. But we have a heart of compassion and love to arise. Yeah, first part is that. Yeah, emptiness, dissolving, everything dissolve. Then arise as a compassionate expression of Vajrayogini. Actually, I would say because of that, right? If we understood this philosophy, then because of empty, then we can rise as a compassionate Vajrayogini. One question has so many ways to apply to relevant to our own practice. So we have to bring always this kind of discussion or talking or asking somebody. I'm not expert at all, but somebody who knows ask. Then we always have to come back to our own direct how relevant what I'm doing right now, how we can apply that whatever discussing to our practice.